be funny, be self-amused, be these different things. And the question really is like, what is humor? How do you be funny, right? Especially because being funny is about releasing from outcome to a great degree and about like creating something spontaneous. How do you meticulously, or how do you plan to be spontaneous, right? It's pretty ironic. For a long time I struggled with this. My solution at a young age was to just watch a lot of stand-up comedy and try and imitate their structures, and that worked to a certain extent, and it definitely like is something that I've done today. Also learning can game and learning structures that way and sort of copying is a really good way to go. I encourage you to do that for sure. I encourage you to look at people who are funny, try and figure out the structure of what they're doing, break it down and build it back up, and you'll learn a lot from it. And even more than the analytical repetition, you'll learn a lot from the exercise. And just from the experience of exposing yourself to a lot of humor, you'll sort of like get it through osmosis. A few years ago, I started taking improvisational comedy, which is again distinct from stand-up comedy because it's being created on the spot in the moment, much more like game. And so it's less structured, but there still is a structure to it. So what I want to explain to you in this video is the structure of improvised comedy. Specifically when I studied improv, I studied at Upright Citizens Brigade in Hollywood, California, and they had this idea in their scenes of what they called the game of the scene. The game of the scene is what makes it interesting, what makes it funny, what makes it compelling. And they had a process for discovering the game, a process for delineating how the set was going to become funny in their long form improvisation. Basically, here's how it works. You start out and the two people are on stage, and what they're doing is they're agreeing with each other and adding something. They have this drill they call yes and. And what does yes and mean? It means I'm accepting the world and then I'm adding a little something of myself, right? Yes, I accept the world. I'm not saying no, I'm not contradicting what's going on. And then and meaning I'm gonna add something. It's not just yes and then nothing, which is what a lot of guys wanna do. They just agree with the girl and shut up and let the girl carry the conversation in a set. So it's yes and. I accept the world as it is and I'm offering something. So yes and, yes and. And then what you're looking for is the first unusual thing. All right, and it's going to happen organically. You're not trying to force it. You're not trying to inherently be unusual. You're not trying to like put a lot of effort into it. You're just looking for the first unusual thing that happens organically. And when you're adding, something unusual is going to come up. Be patient, let it happen. Don't force it in the scene. Don't force it in the set. Okay. When that unusual thing comes up, the next step they have is to justify it. Somebody says something in like a weird accent, right? Or somebody like trips over their word or like says it in a weird way. Next question is, why is that the case? Why did they say it that way? And there's a million different answers, right? It could be because they're nervous. It could be because they're from a certain place. It could be because their shoes are untied or their pants are down, or you never know, right? But it could be for a million different reasons. You come up with some justification for it. And again, that's addition. It can be random. It can be anything. And once you've justified it, now you then explore that idea. And that's where the real fun, interesting stuff comes, is in that exploration. You say, if this is true, what else is true? That's literally the phrase they say. If this is true, what else is true? Okay, so here's what you're doing. Going in, offering value, finding the first unusual thing, justifying it. Again, the justification is not like a right or wrong thing. You just come up with an answer for it, an interesting explanation. Not right or wrong, just creative. And then if this is true, what else is true? How can we then explore some more? How can we offer even more value? So that's the structure of comedy. And if you ever go watch a UCB show or just like go on like YouTube or whatever, look them up. Not right now, finish this video first. But look them up on YouTube. Amazingly brilliant work and incredibly funny off of this tiny little seed of an idea, which means you always have something to say. It's always entertaining. So it's a great, great format for humor. I encourage you to look at that. I encourage you to learn it. Now, how do we apply that in game? Well, I'm gonna give you one specific example only. Like, I want you to learn the structure and learn sort of the philosophy behind it and the attitude behind it, and that's gonna permeate all of your game. But for this video, I'm gonna give you one specific example, which is what we call the mini cold read and future adventure projection. This is a very old tactic from like structured game back in like 2002, 2003, but it follows this sort of structure almost perfectly, okay? So what is the mini cold read? Okay, here's what you do. You notice some interesting thing about them, right? So for example, say they're wearing like a very tight black shirt, okay? Tight black shirt, right? It could be anything. And that's not all that creative, but you notice something about them, right? So you go, okay, tight black shirt. What could that mean? What's a justification for it? Now there's a million justifications you could do. You could be like, they're like very religious and uptight. You could be like, they're trying to be very sexual, which is completely the opposite. You could do that they are a porn star at a funeral, right? There's a lot of different things you could go with that. And some will be interesting, some will be obvious, some will be creative, whatever. By the way, one little random thing, you'll notice those three things I said, right? I came up with those off the top of my head. First one kind of boring, second one kind of boring. But once you get to like the third and the fourth ones, you're getting to the unobvious creative ones. That's where usually your best ideas happen. That's an aside, that's not really part of the video, but it's an interesting point. So now you have that justification, right? Say porn star at a funeral, right? Now you say, if this is true, what else is true? What else would happen with a porn star at a funeral? Would she have other porn stars? Would she lay sex toys at the gravesite? Who would be the person in the casket? How are we gonna describe them, right? Start exploring that idea, start going somewhere with it. If this is true, what else is true? And now you're off in this interesting fantasy land that you can explore with the girl, right? Now, ideally, this fantasy idea should also be about the girl in some way, so it's emotionally relevant to her, and also that allows her to participate. Now you're in this world of we are creating something together, which is phenomenal for the set. It's a great idea for moving things forward in terms of the game and in terms of where you want things to go, but also it's creative, it's funny, it's interesting, and it's new. The fact that it's new and the fact you're creating it is going to keep you engaged, keep you in the moment. So, but just by following this procedure, just by following this format, you're inherently going to do almost every single thing in game right. That's why it's so beautiful, that's why it's so elegant, all right? So that's a little bit on humor, a little bit on theory. Hopefully you can take that to even bigger levels and even broader applications than what I've described in this video, but also learn the mini cold read future adventure projection, go practice it, do it, get out there, take action, and explore and go have fun with it, all right? That's it for this video.